أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. In a very good morning. Salam Jumaat, salam Sayyidul Ayyam. Inshallah, hopefully that for today will be better than yesterday, inshallah. And inshallah for us, we would contribute more towards the community, the society, for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alhamdulillah, for today we have a very special guest that we have invited in IIUM Industrial Webinar Series 2021, KhAIR Talk. KhAIR means Khalifa, Amana, Iqra and Rahmatan lil Alameen, KhAIR Talk. So for today we have a special and a very special guest. I think it's very close to our heart. He's also our alumni from International Islamic University Malaysia, which is Mr. Ahmad Rafeek Ibrahim, the Director of Intel Validation Engineering. Assalamualaikum, Mr. Ahmad Rafeek.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah, Azami. Thank you
How
for
are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm fine.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to have you with us. So for today, I think the topic is very interesting to us, Kan. I think I can read the topic first. What it takes to survive and thrive in the industry amidst the pandemic. So as you can see, as you can, we can experience for the past, I think nearly 2 years, more than 2 years, we were hit by this pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic, right? So, and it came in all of us. All of a sudden, everything, the norms, everything changed. So especially, I think it involves the industry, how we live, how we work. Everything is like something else, something that is new, a new norm. They call it new norm. So this is what actually we would like to have the insight from Mr. Ahmad Rafeek concerning what actually, or how do we actually, maybe Intel, maybe Mr. Ahmad Rafeek survived in this 2 years pandemic and maybe and beyond. So before I pass it on to Mr. Ahmad Rafeek, I would like to introduce Mr. Ahmad Rafeek to the audience. Or before that, please, the viewers out there, please subscribe to our channel, our Office of Industry Link YouTube channel, so that we can provide you with more information in the future, inshallah. So without further ado, I would like to actually introduce Mr. Ahmad Rafeek. So Mr. Ahmad Rafeek is an accomplished engineering professional with over 17 years of comprehensive large-scale technical and managerial involvement in areas related to both engineering and operation. His early career was spent working on board design, post-silicon chips, and system-level performance per watt characterization, along with thermal analysis. Mr. Ahmad Rafeek Ibrahim also spent 3 years building and transforming a team towards delivering time model analysis on FPGA, which is directly correlated to transistor level power and performance. Here is where he ventured into data analytics to enable swift processing involving billions of data and elements of Industry 4.0 with focus on artificial intelligence, machine vision, and IoT. He has filed for 2 US patents and has published over 8 technical papers in prestigious Springer journals, IEEE, and international technical conferences. At the moment, Mr. Ahmad Rafeek Ibrahim manages power management team in Penang, and as a joint team efforts across Penang, Folsom, and Oregon, if I pronounce it correctly, towards delivering a bug-free power management silicon on chip. The verification strategy is to ensure all the power management features get verified against the specification. So he has, I think if I read his, resume here, it will be very long. So what is interesting here is Mr. Ahmad Rafeek Ibrahim sits in the University Malaya and University of Malaysia Pahang Industrial Advisory Panel, and occasionally speaks at conferences and local universities. I was also understood he is also the industry advisory panel of Imperial College London. Mr. Ahmad Rafeek is also active in CSR activities, where he is a mentor to global team at Intel's Mentor Circle, and has helped various schools in Penang in upgrading computers and to newer laptops by collaborating with Penang Science Cluster. Mr. Ahmad Rafeek has an executive education from Harvard Business School on data analytics and a bachelor degree in mechatronics engineering from International Islamic University, Malaysia. So without further ado, I think it is time for us to hear the insights from our special speaker for today, on the title, What It Takes to Survive and Thrive in the Industry Amidst the Pandemic. Over to you, Mr. Rafeek.
All right. Thank you so much, Azami. First of all, I feel honored and I'm blessed to be given this opportunity to at least share some of my personal experiences and also values that I have adhered to dearly in towards building my career in the industry, right? So before I begin, how many people do we have here today? Do you have a rough count?
I think it's increasing. If I can see my screen, it's now 20. And the YouTube, I'm not sure. I have to check. Mr. Rafeek.
All right, that's fine. So let's get started. So I'll share my screen.
Okay.
System audio. All right. And are you able to see my screen? Sorry, let me see. Let me. Just a quick one. Okay. Let me know when you can see my screen, okay?
Okay, I think I'll add the screen. All right, it's there, Mr. Rafeek. Yes.
Okay. All right, folks. Once again, I feel honored to be given this opportunity to be able to share with the IIUM students, and if there are any lecturers who are dialing in. Assalamu alaikum, and hope that we will have a blessed session. So the first video that I want to share with you, so please take a moment to watch this video, and then we shall deep dive into how we interpret this video. The reason I'm sharing this with you guys is just not for the sake of fun of watching a video. There's a lot of meaning and depth to the conversation that we will have later on. So please just watch this video for a couple of minutes. Thank you.
4 years ago, we started to wonder, what would shopping look like if you could walk into a store, grab what you want, and just go? What if we could weave the most advanced machine learning, computer vision, and AI into the very fabric of a store, so you never have to wait in line? No lines, no checkouts, no registers. Welcome to Amazon Go. Use the Amazon Go app to enter. Then put away your phone and start shopping. It's really that simple. Take whatever you like. Anything you pick up is automatically added to your virtual cart. If you change your mind about that cupcake, just put it back. Our technology will update your virtual cart automatically. So, how does it work? We used computer vision, deep learning algorithms, and sensor fusion, much like you'd find in self-driving cars. We call it Just Walk Out technology. Once you've got everything you want, you can just go. When you leave, our Just Walk Out technology adds up your virtual cart and charges your Amazon account. Your receipt is sent straight to the app, and you can keep going. Amazon Go. No lines, no checkout. No, seriously.
All right. So the key message out of that video that you just saw is an integration of multiple discipline of engineering. being interlaced together, interwoven into a fabric of technology that we can offer to the community and make people's life a lot easier, right? And if you look at this second foil of mine, this is sort of my favorite quote. What we are educating for ourselves today may not be what it is for in many, many years to come, right? It is the education, the fundamentals that we are equipping ourselves with are supposed to be taking us into the future we cannot grasp at the moment, right? And if you look at the curriculum that you are being educated with today at the university, these are fundamental building blocks that is supposed to equip you to be able to see a far bigger picture as you enter the industry. So these fundamental building blocks are critical towards you, enabling you with abilities to be able to piece this technology and knowledge together into a formation of a newer technology, right? So whatever you are getting educated for today um, is not to solve today's problem, right? You must be able to scale. You must be able to think with the perspective that you are going to influence future decisions, all right? So many of the knowledge that I was exposed to when I joined Intel upon graduating, those stuffs were not in the textbooks that I was exposed to, right? The technology in the MNCs at Intel was far growing at a faster rate that we couldn't publish all this into the textbooks that we read in academia, right? That is the reason why, while reading textbooks and going for classes, it is equally important for you to read research papers, to read journals, to also be able to expose to to subscribe to industry news, being able to keep yourself on par with the need of the industry, right? So whichever knowledge that you are acquiring has to remain relevant to the need of the industry, right? So if you look at the fundamentals, the mathematics, the physics of it, and the digital logic, these are all the fundamental knowledge that you will need to gain and attain a certain mastery. How you end up using this knowledge, how you end up piecing these knowledges together towards forming a newer piece of knowledge becomes an important asset that is unique to yourself. So there is no fixed formula as to what subject to take or how to position yourself for growth in the industry. There's no fixed formula to those, right? The formula is unique to every individual, right? That is where we at Intel, we respect everyone. We do not look at gender, we do not look at race, nor religion, or nor your family background. None of that comes to play. We often focus on hiring people for meritocracy, right? Meaning we hire people based on merit, their academic merits, their academic capabilities, and how relevant is the knowledge that you have to the need of the industry. So that is a vital skill that you will need to acquire yourself with, right? For example, going back to the video, right? You can see there's a deep algorithm being involved, some AI elements, some machine vision, right? And that technology, I was quite lucky and blessed in some ways that I was able to experience that firsthand when I visited Seattle, right? That's the reason why when I saw that video, it clicked with me because I've been in that store. And looking into how software, how hardware, firmware, and different disciplines of engineering like machine vision, big data analytics, AI, deep learning algorithms, and all this coming into play, right? They coalesce into a unique proposition for the people, to make people's life better, a better experience, right? But back then, 2017, when this technology was found and enabled, we didn't have the pandemic, right? But then today, such stores become more relevant because you do not interact with people, right? You can maintain a safe distance. All you do is pick up what you need, and it automatically, puts in your shopping cart, and it's linked to your credit card facility, and you get credited for the purchase you made, and you walk out without the need to queue, right? Without the need to touch surfaces that are common to everybody. So a technology that was found back in 2017 prepared us for the pandemic without even us realizing it, right? So today, let me ask you this question. How can you implement a similar technology, for example, at IIUM library? Right? If you put an RFID solution into the books, into the shelves, and put along with deep learning algorithms and whatnot, and you have zero checkout need for the books that you take out from the library. The moment you take out, it updates your smartphone, and your database captures all this information, and you can leave the library without getting a stamp on your book, right? How does that work? So technologies such as this, as and when you get exposed to them, it's supposed to click inside your brains of how you are going to, find the relevance of these technologies to enable you to have a far better learning experience, right? That is the reason I said earlier, while you're reading your textbooks, you should also get exposed to journals, to research papers, right? Subscribe to IEEE journals or Springer journals, for example. Go and read the latest and greatest technologies that are out there. Or you can also go subscribe to Harvard Business Review. They have a schedule magazine, digital magazine that they send to you, where they do the latest and greatest research in the industry, where you will know what's happening, right? What is happening in the field of big data? How is Uber using big data? How is Grab utilizing big data to increase presence of Grab drivers in areas of demand? How do they know, right? So all these questions are often answered in research papers and journal publications. So having the great fundamental is important. And then you need to always depend on multi-vector decision making. All right. So a single vector may at times deviate you from the actual path that you intend to take. But if you allow a multi-vector decision-making process, for example, again, going back to your syllabus, you're learning digital logic, and then you try to triangulate and see how is this knowledge relevant to the need of the industry, right? And if you're taking elective courses in engineering, you probably learn about fuzzy logic, some artificial intelligence classes. You need to find another vector that can help guide you better. The more vectors converges towards an acceptable path, that will ensure your success. But if you make your decision on a single vector, that one single vector may not be sufficient to guide your career journey. Okay, so let me take you on this path. Before you do anything, you got to understand the why, or rather the purpose of you doing it, right? So today we all graduated as engineers, and you are graduating as an engineer. In future, you will know what is your purpose, what is the purpose of your existence, right? So to find that purpose, you got to often, when I say multi-vector, I often used to take a look at my life from the perspective of the economy. How relevant is what I'm doing with the expectation of economy? How is my career being able to scale and be able to provide for my needs based on the GDP growth, for example? And if you look at this chart, and this is something that I grabbed off from that World Bank database, I provide you the link over there. You can log into that database and grab this data yourself, right? There are a lot of other meaningful data in this World Bank database. So if you, for example, in this context, the world's GDP growth, and I've grabbed this major economies of the world: United States, Germany, Japan, the rest of the world, and UK. The reason I'm showing this chart is not to get into the precision of data. I just want you to focus on the trend. And if you look at it from 1965 down to 2015, the trend is a downward trend, right? So the GDP growth is on the decline. And if you look at global population, they are on the increase. So just imagine a piece of pizza, they're getting divided more and more, and your GDP is on the decline. How much of that growth can you own as a person, right? So this is one example. And this is another example of adjusted net national income per capita. And if you look at from 1975 down to 2015, it is also on a decline. All the major economies are experiencing a decline in income per capita and the GDP growth. So what does this say? This says that most of the growth factor is on the decline year over year. And what are we doing about this? So now let me ask you these questions. I'm sorry that this cannot be an interactive session, otherwise it will be far more interesting. So if you look at how many of us have smartphones in our pocket, right? We all have amazing smartphones with enormous amount of technological capability, right? You have 4G, you have 5G, you have data everywhere you go, you're able to snap picture and whatnot, you are able to stream videos and movies. But let us ask this question: how many of us are content consumers? This is the $1,000,000 question. How many of us are content consumers? And how many of us are content creators? So these devices that we own, these smartphones that we own, are we using these smartphones to create content? Or are we using these smartphones and smart devices to consume content? For example, you watch YouTube, you read reviews and journals, and you keep maybe read news, you keep consuming data, but you don't create data. You don't create anything new out of it, right? That is the reason, that is the main reason everything else is on the decline, because there are lesser and lesser content creators. And there are more and more content consumers, right? So that is where people like us engineers come in. We got to create a value proposition, right, that the market is willing to pay. All right, so I will get to the next point, which will be more interesting. So these are all carrier pointers that I have put together. And this one page roughly, summarizes almost 17 years of my career. Okay. All right. So number one, how to survive in the industry, right? So I've provided you with some context about how the global economy looks like. All right. And now let's pursue the ideas about how to improve things, right? So number one, you got to take charge of your own employability. So a lot of people, upon graduating, they come into the workforce, they start asking their management, like, so what should I do to be successful? What do I need to do, right? So that is sort of the fundamental question that almost everybody asks. Now reverse that thinking. You took SPM exam and you qualified in your matriculation and finally came to the university. And who asked you to study? Most of the time, it's your own effort. You're the one burning midnight oil. You're the one going to your parents and asking them, hey, I need this textbook, or I need this additional tutorial for me to do better, right? You took charge of your own academic achievements, right? So what happened was, you did well in your SPM and you did well in your STPM or your A levels or your matriculation, and here you are at the university. And when you are at the university, you are given ultimate freedom. You can attend classes, you can skip classes, you can do anything that you wish on doing, but you choose to focus on your studies. The reason is you understood the value proposition, meaning getting a good degree enables you to secure a better job in future, right? So you understand that and you take charge of your employability. But the moment you step your foot into the industry, this thing is turned 180 degrees, where you then entrust your manager who maybe knows you for the first 3 months, and you ask this person, why, what do I need to do in order to be successful? That is, to me, the wrong first step that almost a lot of people make. The right first step that you got to make is go to your manager and tell them, here are my capabilities, my skill sets, and this is how I can contribute to your organization. And before you do that, of course, you got to do an environmental scan. You look at your organization and see, all right, what is actually this organization is doing? Okay, they're working on this, this, and that. How do I add value? You got to ask that question yourself. And once you have done environmental scan and you have understand your value in that ecosystem, that is when you go to your manager in the first month, for example, and tell him or her that, hey, these are my skills, these are my competencies, and I'm capable. I've done some environmental scan. I feel like I can contribute in these areas. So can I have jobs that align to this interest? So you take charge on your own employability. You know, managers like me, I will truly appreciate people who come to me with a growth mindset kind of conversation, right? Showing the willingness and the attitude to contribute, right? Okay. So that is a sort of element number one at play. You should always take charge of your own employability. However, you took charge of your studies when you were in high school and university, continue doing that when you are in the industry. That is one of the recipe to ensure your survivability and how well you will thrive in the industry. If you keep accepting guidance and somebody spoon feed you, handhold you all the way, you always have an artificial glass ceiling above your head, and you cannot realize your true potential. All right. Then second, you got to understand the trade-off that you are going to make, right? Understanding trade-off. For example, you get the offer letter. It says, okay, you work from 8 to 5, and this is how much salary you will gain out of it, right? So when you took that job, when you signed that document, you understand the trade-off, meaning you are trading your time 8 hours a day for this pay at the end of the month. You need to come to terms with it, right? So same goes for everything else that you take over at work. For every work that you are given or you are going to be assigned to or you sign up for, you need to understand the trade-off it brings to yourself and to the organization that you are serving at, right? Make sure that the contributions are far supersedes the trade-off that that you're putting in. For example, I work 8 hours a day. I try to contribute as much as possible to growing people's career, to make sure my organization stays on track. We establish key KPIs to track what we are delivering and understand trade-off of everything. For example, I cannot put 40 engineers to work on one project that probably yields no return, right? So you got to understand the return factor and how much energy and effort you're going to invest in order to have that return. Same goes for research that you do at the university. If you take too long to do a research, 2 years, 4 years, maybe, you miss the window of opportunity, right? So if you look at marketing strategy, like for example, the very first iPhone, if those of you who follow this evolution of technology of iPhones, you will know that the first iPhone that came out didn't even have a 3G antenna on it, but it was still sold to the market, right? Because they needed to get to the market within the slightest time window they had. If they didn't capture that time window, the time window moves. When the time window shifts, you miss that opportunity. So sometimes you cannot be 100% ready to launch something. Something should be like about 80%, 90% ready. Then you go for it. Right? So make sure you understand the time factor. So same goes for your studies, right? You studied, you came into the industry. You cannot take another 4 years to study about your work, because you're already being equipped with all these fundamentals. You come to work, you understand how to contribute and relate it back to your fundamentals, and quickly gather all these pieces of knowledge and information you need to get the job accomplished and run towards accomplishing it. Right? The sooner you accomplish something, the sooner you get to the next task and the next and the next, which will grow your experience, which will grow your exposure in the industry, and keeps you on the edge all the time, and allow you to be competitive. The reason I'm saying this is this, for example. So let's say you graduate this year and you spend another 4 years in the industry, and every year there are students graduating out from the universities and they are joining the industry. And every year they join, they have new knowledge, they have new skills, new capabilities, new, a lot of new things being taught in the university these days. So every batch of students who come out have their own competitive advantage. And if you join the industry and you feel like, all right, I'm happy, I got a job, so I can just lay on my laurels and feel very comfortable about it. And newer students are coming in, more competitive, with greater and latest knowledge. And if you don't grow yourself while you are in the industry, after you scale it across 6 years, 8 years, you tend to lose out. So make sure that even while you are in the industry, you always keep yourself on par with the latest and greatest. So learning is a continuous journey that you need to take. All right. Then the other point is focus on a T-KhAIR model instead of an I-KhAIR model. So those days, maybe during the 80s, your area of specialization is one, maybe mechanical. You join as a mechanical engineer and you spend 30 years doing mechanical engineering. That used to be the market. Today, the need of the market is that you have multidiscipline skill set and you will have mastery in one area. For example, let me give you an example. Let's say you're a mechanical engineer. So your specialization is in mechanical engineering, but you should also know some level of coding, because you will need to somehow automate your mechanical tests or fabrication process. For example, your CNC machine is a fully automated machine, but it was probably designed by a mechanical engineer who understands automation. And one of the ways to enable automation is through scripting. You got to script that flow, right? So this is the reason why I'm saying of late, it is more relevant for us to have a T model instead of an I model. So for example, so you know coding, then you understand a little bit about economics, right? For example I gave you earlier, the time window. That is understanding economics, right? That is the pointer here, where I put one of the pointer here as business acumen. You got to understand the business acumen side of things. And I know at IIUM, you guys have management courses, economic courses, statistics courses. These are, in fact, I feel like the course structure at IIUM had prepared me to be a versatile person when I joined the industry. So I was able to look at things from the view of economics, from the view of management, from the view of human psychology, and also with the area focus of engineering as my eye, right? So having a T-KhAIR model, right, is extremely important to ensure your long-term survivability in the industry and to ensure your career thrives, right? So having understanding about the bigger picture, right? So being able to understand system level thinking, if you look at another pointer I have here, being able to understand the entire system. How does the entire system in engineering functions? For example, you cannot develop some, okay, maybe let me not go to that. Okay, let me ask you this question. How much will you pay for this phone? There's a price limit for it. Nobody was willing to pay a 10,000 ringgit for a smartphone. The maximum dollar you will pay for a smartphone is maybe in the range of 2 and 3,000 ringgit, right? If you need a high-end smartphone, maybe 6,000 ringgit. But nobody is willing to pay 10 or 20,000 ringgit for a smartphone, right? So you got to understand the system level thinking of it. So you design something, you cannot take forever to design. So you need to release your design in stages with a certain evolution to create a knee-jerk effect in the market so that the excitement about your product release is kept alive, right? Then the other context is affordability. What is the market space that you're trying to get into? Who are you going to sell these products to, right? So you got to understand the economics part of it. Then you got to also understand how people are going to interact with these devices. That is about designing of user interface, which is a lot about the psychology of how man interacts with the machine, right? So these are all the multidiscipline, the system level thinking that you got to employ when you do a research or create a product, right? And when you come into the industry, the same concept. For example, if you do robotics, I was from mechatronics, so one of my final year project was creating a color recognition robot. So when you create this robot, does it come with a software interface? Are you able to update the features in the software in order for that robot to have enhanced features, right? Can you optimize the speed of the movement so that the task gets done sooner, a lot faster than it was before? So is there elements of improvisation that you can put in place to take advantage, to capitalize on investing little but getting more gain? So the key word here is providing an ecosystem, right? And if you analyze the industry, Apple does this, and Google does this very well too with their Android platform. So if you go back to Apple and look at them, they have a device, like they have Apple TV, they have MacBooks, they have iPad, they have iPhones, and then they have the App Store. The App Store is part of the ecosystem. And then they have the earpods, right, to listen to the music. And then they have music store. They have Apple TV. Now they have a movie store. So if you look at the entire piece, if you piece that entire ecosystem together, you will notice that they are designed to give you an end-to-end solution that you do not need to go elsewhere. Once you embark on their ecosystem, you have a complete end-to-end solution that you do not need to go elsewhere. The longer you stay in the ecosystem, you tend to invest more, right? You surround yourself with all these Apple devices, all Google devices, and you get deeper and deeper into their ecosystem. And then they have payment system these days called Apple Pay. So this is how you must understand all that different elements and that comes into play to create an ecosystem. So when you provide a solution, even at work, right, you can provide an Excel and tell people that populate yourself and press this button and you get the result. Or you can fully automate it, right? Meaning every hour of the day, the data is prefetched from the database. And you can link that to a Power BI data visualizations engine. And all they need is to click on the link and they have latest, greatest data about the experiment that you're running. How does that sound? Compared to giving someone an Excel sheet and say, yeah, you go and populate yourself and click that button and you get the charts, right? So it is up to you and me to provide people around us with a complete solution and create an ecosystem that allows people a seamless way to consume the data, right? So that people can do a far more valuable job with the rest of the time that they have. The reason we want to make things faster, we want to make things more efficient, is so that we give back time to people to go back to their families, right? We don't want people to work 16 hours a day in our lab. We want people to go back after 8 hours of work, go back to their family and have a work-life balance. And we want people to be able to spare up some time to take up additional classes. So you must always think about it from that sense, right? Studying 18 hours a day and getting a C doesn't count, right? If you put 2 hours and you get a B or an A, that's perfect, right? So understand that system level thinking, okay? And then, of course, understand the purpose and the call for action. So again, when I begin this talk earlier in the day, I was telling you guys about understanding the why factor, right? Most often, when you understand the why factor or the clear purpose, you tend to be more connected to that goal, right? You don't float around because you have a purpose, right? And then you will look into the what's. What is it that I want in life? Or what is it that I want to achieve? If you have a strong purpose, you can easily identify the what's. Then you connect the purpose and the what's through the hows, right? Then you establish the different methods, the different approach, of different mindset of how you want to get things done, because you have a clear purpose and you understand the what's. Now connect the dots between these two with all the various how that you are trying or you can accomplish those, right? So understand that clearly with that clear purpose and call for action. Okay. And then how much more time do I have, Azami? Okay, that's fine. All right. So besides that, I spoke about the business acumen side of things. So you got to understand the business factor, meaning the financial impacts of things, the economic side of the market that you are in. For example, even if you are building your career, you got to understand there are always competitors around, right? Like Intel have our own competitor, like AMD or like Facebook or Apple. They all are building chips these days. So we got to understand that we have heavy competition. So I often recommend people to do a SWOT analysis. The SWOT stands for strength, weaknesses, opportunity, and threat. If you yourself can put together a SWOT analysis for yourself, so you understand your strength, you understand your weakness, you understand your opportunity and your threat. That will allow you to be better equipped with skills and knowledge that are required, because you will then understand, hey, this is my strength and this is my weakness. Meaning weakness turns to be, you can turn that into opportunities for learning, right? Opportunities for enhanced training. Those can be turned into opportunities, right? And then there are threats. What are my threats? Right? Is the market stability my threat? So if the manufacturing industry is not stable, do I move into an R&D environment, right? Or do I move into a service-based environment? These are all analysis that you need to do towards building a career for yourself, understanding the SWOT analysis, right? So each individual needs to do this SWOT analysis from time to time. It's not a one-time deal, right? I do this for myself almost every year. So I take a look at my career, perform SWOT analysis once a year to see how consistent is my growth, right? How well am I relevant to the need of the industry? Again, going back to this point right here, having industry relevant knowledge. So during my days, it used to be statistics. Today, because we are looking at billions of data, of billions of transistors, it has become big data analytics. And because the data is enormously, gigantic, we are employing artificial intelligence to help us C for patterns, for signatures, right? And we are using different methods of data analytics to see which are the methods and formulas or principles that converges, which ones are diverging and why do they diverge. And we compare like maybe 10 different models to find, hey, like to analyze the same data, right? 10 different models, look at the same data and see how many diverges and how many converges. That helps. That helps you to make a data-driven decision, right? And most of the time, I feel your career will be a lot better if you are able to framing and putting things into context. All right. Here, let me give you an example. So this came out from the Harvard research. So there was a problem at the New York Stock Exchange building. So there were complaints from the tenants that the lift is extremely slow, right? The elevator is extremely slow. So the building management was considering change of the lift, improvising the algorithm to go to even and odd floors, changing the controllers, the motors, and stuff like that. And this research, Harvard Business School took interest in this, and they came and took a look at the problem. Is this really a hardware problem, right? Is this really an engineering problem? We got to understand that. So after understanding what's going on, people's behavior and all that, they changed several things around that building. For example, at that lift waiting area, they added screens of TVs that was actually displaying contents related to their job, trading markets, stock trends, and whatnot. And they had brochures of classes relevant to stock exchange or classes on data analytics and stuff at the lift, at the waiting area. And they had hand sanitizers as well, right? So they actually tried to frame the problem. The actual problem was people were impatient. The stock traders, the remisers, were impatient. They can't wait to get to their floor to do their work because every minute ticks on that clock stock exchange is dollar for them. So they want to be there when they want it. So there was a rush in that decision making. So when Harvard got back to these building owners and they told them, hey, you know what? Let's try putting on all these things. And subsequent quarters, the amount of complaint went down and plateaued to a very low amount, which is manageable, right? Low complaints are okay. You cannot get rid of the complaint 100%. But low, from maybe 60% of complaint went down to 5%. That is a good value. So, but again, this tells you about framing and context. Sometimes the problem that you need to solve is not directly as the problem that you see from your eyes. Sometimes the solutions are indirect in nature. So you got to be able to frame properly and put things into context so that you are able to communicate about your work well, right? People who are receiving your updates are able to comprehend it well. Like, for example, you provide them with an executive summary, maybe like, a 6-sentence summary that summarizes your whole work for that month. How many of us can do that, right? If we were to summarize our work in a month, it will be a 10-page document. But executives, directors and senior directors and VPs, they don't have that much time. They probably have 5 minutes to read your report. So you providing an executive summary, which is like 5 to 6 sentences, and providing them a chart that translates the data visualization part, where I look at things and I can comprehend what's happening, and highlights, lowlights, risk assessment. That's it. So that is being able to put things into context and to frame your problem statements or your contributions. That will help you a lot in keeping your bosses updated and towards building your career. They want it or they do not want it, or they request it or not. It is your prerogative and your responsibility to keep your management updated about all this progress that you're making in your career, and inform them of the risk that is there and the risk that you are mitigating to ensure business can run smoothly. They should be made aware regardless of them requesting for it or not. Okay. And we spoke a little bit about value creation and value capture. So I will put things into context a little bit here. So value creation and value capture. So when you create value for yourself, right, you must create a value for yourself so that you become the go-to person in your organization. So again, environmental scan, SWOT analysis, for yourself and also for the organization that you are working for, right? Then you understand based on your organization opportunities and threat and weaknesses, you know that these are the areas that you can directly contribute, right? And that contribution will be meaningful contribution and it will be appreciated, right? And as you contribute and deliver, the key word here is deliver, deliver, and deliver to it. When you are consistent in delivering the results, consistent to your skills, consistent to your technical capability, and consistent to the need of the department that you're in, you will slowly gain the reputation towards becoming a go-to person. See here? So you will then become a go-to person where if people need a particular solution in that domain, they will come to you. They'll say, hey, okay, Rafeek has this capability. Hey, Rafeek, can you help me with this? Right? Can you help me with, with that? And eventually, slowly, people keep coming to you and you will create a branding for yourself, right? Just like how, if you look at Nike, for example, every time somebody mentions Nike, you will, the first thing almost comes to my mind, at least, will be the shoes. Although Nike make basketballs, Nike made apparels, Nike made tons of other sports equipments, but the moment somebody says Nike to me, I see sports shoes, right? So that is Nike's branding. The branding strategy is to make sure everybody understands Nike sports shoes. The rest are peripherals. They will discover you, but first of all, shoes. So now, when people think about you, right, what do you want people to think about first? That will be towards building your personal branding. Okay. So, and if you create a value that people are willing to pay, that is when you get paid higher and higher in the industry. Right? It's about paying for your skill, for your capability, and you create that value that the market willing to capture. But if you create a value that nobody willing to capture, that becomes charity. Have you seen people giving away iPhones? No. Maybe in a lucky draw, but not for charity. Right? People will need to pay for it because it has its worth. But if you create something that people are not willing to pay, that becomes a charity. Right? So you got to understand, every time you create a value, you got to first think, if I create this value, who's going to capture this value? So going through school, coming out with good grades and having skills, competencies, you are creating a value for yourself so that the market and the industry, companies like Intel, is willing to capture that skill and willing to pay for it, right? So these are great ideas about how to build your career and how you can actually strive in the industry. And the last point I want to stress on is psychological safety, right? So whenever you come to work, although we want to highly compete with people to show our value, it is better to highly collaborate with people. The more you collaborate with people, the more you enable people, the greater success that you will attain. Because people will then have this psychological safety with you. They know that when they come and work with you, there's no threat. If every time somebody comes work with you, they keep thinking about, what are the political reason of me working with this guy? Is this guy going to backstab me? Yeah, this guy has a history of stealing my data. This guy has a proven track record of stealing people's ideas and making it his own. People don't feel psychological safety in dealing with you, and over time you will lose a lot. People will no longer want to collaborate with you. But if you come into the industry with the mindset of collaborating, play to your strength, and attain success, that is how you will go a long way in the industry. Okay? So these are all the career pointers. And lastly, I hope this is my last one, is how we turn data into wisdom. So you will notice that you have a lot of data about your skill, about your competency, about the data that you're collecting and whatnot. But you will also notice that most of the people dwell in this range. They show people data, a lot of data, but they are unable to package the data into valuable pieces of information, right? And if you can package that into valuable pieces of information, you can then turn that into knowledge, into body of knowledge. And once you have transformed that into a body of knowledge, then you will have a wiser decision making process that will allow you to attain greater wisdom, right? So as and when you are doing your experiment, your final year project, or even when you enter the industry, don't dwell in this data space too long, because it confuses a lot of people, because the data are all tangled. As you can see in this diagram, they are tangled, right? Historically, people like to say, let data speak for itself. No, data should be turned into valuable pieces of information, turned into valuable body of knowledge that people can consume and make wiser decisions. This is how you should structure yourself, right? So having knowledge on data visualization, having knowledge on framing and context, putting things into context, being able to untangle the complex into valuable pieces of information, those are going to be valuable to you building a career. Okay. All right. Lastly, I just want to expose you a little bit about this, that these are all opportunities that you have, right? So I've described to you how to build your career and whatnot. And then, of course, you'll be asking, now what? What do I do, right? Where do I go? So if you look into the context of Industry 4.0, you will notice that the maturity of AI today is roughly at about 3.5 years old, right? Of a human age. Everybody talks about Siri, about Google Home, and all these things. But I will point out to you today that you cannot have a continuous conversation with any of these AI engines, right? If you ask them, hey, what is the weather today? And they say it's going to rain at 4 p.m. And you ask, like, do I need to bring an umbrella? It doesn't answer you. The conversation with these AI engines are very serial in nature, and it stops with one question and one answer. They are unable to have a continuous conversation with people, right? So as great as it sounds, there's ample opportunity to improve that, right? Ample opportunity to improve that AI, to take them further and be able to have continuous conversation, to be able to understand context, depth of meaning, all that opportunities for you and me to explore and make our career out of it, right? And you can see Industry 1.0 was just steam engines. In fact, Malaysia, we had this kain, yang tenun kain in Terengganu back in the days. That was Industry 1.0. That is this one. And then we have kereta api. We had the one that is powered by coal, arang batu, and all that. We had that. But as we progressed over time, we lose out. We lose out. Do you know why we lose out? Again, going back to the very first point that I said, we stop becoming content creators. We consume technology. We consume content created by other countries. but we lack the ability to create our own technology. That is the reason why the gap in the enabling Industry 4.0 widens over time. And if you look at the greater economies like the US or the UK, they were in the forefront of creating. They keep on creating contents, technology, and solutions, and they are on par with Industry 4.0. And if you look at us as a country, we are lagging behind because we keep jumping on a moving bandwagon, right? So if we start creating contents, creating technology and solutions, we can as well go on par, right? And it doesn't need, you do not need to follow the progression of being Industry 1.0, 2.0. No. If you are capable and if you can build that technology and solution, you can fast track yourself into Industry 4.0. And if you look at this table right here, Industry 4.0 is around mobile devices, Internet of Things platforms, location-driven technologies, machine vision, smart sensors, big data analytics, augmented reality. All of this constitutes 4.0. And if you don't have any of this technology, it doesn't matter. Start looking into here. And if we create enough solution and body of knowledge and technology and allow that sustainability, we will be in the forefront of Industry 4.0. I don't see why we can't, right? So again, this is the adaptation of where Industry 4.0 are. If you look at sales and marketing, there's quite a wider adaptation right there. And you will see quite a wide adaptation in banking services, fraud detection, risk assessment. And surprisingly, in the field of operation and engineering, it's very less. And these are real data by Keystone Strategy interviews, but this was done in 2015. All right. So you can see in banking, great amount of solution, sales and marketing, great amount of solution. You can experience that today. You go on Google, whatever you searched for recently shows up as products that recommended for you to buy. Those are all done by AI and big data analytics, right? And I was privy to some of this technology as well, where they did age-based marketing. So, for example, somewhere in the world, an 18-year-old to 25-year-old age group is buying a soccer ball during World Cup, for example. And if you are a 18-year-old person logging into a system and somehow the engine detects you and sells you the same products that other teenagers around the world are buying. That is how they drive up the sales of people from the same age group. All right. And you can see HR and finance, the adaptation is very low. So why I'm showing you here this chart is because I just want to convey the message that there are great amount of opportunities out there for you to make a great career out of it. All you need to do is gain industry relevant knowledge and put that to good use. And these are all the spaces where you can go in. This chart is relatively still small compared to the size of the market. Okay. And I hope this is my final one. Yeah, I think so. All right, here. And this is in the context of Malaysia. So Malaysian manufacturers are not using Industry 4.0, 81% of them. This is huge opportunity right here for you to go into, right? Insufficient knowledge and skill of employee on Industry 4.0 in SME, 62%, right? Low optimism level among suppliers and manufacturers, right? These are all from reputable organizations that does survey, right? McKinsey and others. And you can see SME using Industry 4.0 in Malaysia is 1%. Again, the only reason I'm showing you this is to tell you that there are ample opportunities out there for you to explore and build a career. Okay? All right, that is all what I have, Azami. Open for questions. question. Sorry, let me read that. How do you see big data in the near future? Is it going to be a fundamental skill
Oh,
for?
sorry, I was not in. Sorry,
No
sorry.
problem. So I have a
Alright.
the question from Faisal. He
Yes,
says,
yes.
how do you see big data in the near future? Is it going to be a fundamental skill for a person to stand out? Definitely. Definitely. I will tell you one thing that most of the big data scientists that we are hiring today come from India because their universities was teaching big data almost 10 years ago. So they have graduates, they have PhD holders in big data, right? So in Malaysia, it's getting started. I know that there are government agencies that are enabling big data exposure and awareness. But to short answer to your question, Faisal, it is a definite need for you to have this knowledge in order for you to be more relevant and competitive in the industry.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Rafeek. Sorry for the, I was not in. I was talking by myself just now. I was not in the
No
screen.
worries.
Okay.
No worries.
Second question from the Takalila Zakaria. Excellent sharing, Mr. Rafeek. What you have shared cut across all the disciplines. Thank you for that. My question for new graduates, what are the key things that you look for aside from technical skills? Please.
All right. So being able to communicate well, all right, being able to put things into context and framing their thoughts, having a clarity of thoughts, and above everything else, having a clear purpose, right? Because I will say I've interviewed quite a fair bit of people in my 17 years in the industry. I've heard people come for interviews and say, I actually don't know what I want. I just look at this
Okay.
opportunity. I just came for the interview. I've had people like that. Right? I've also had people that, okay, I read about your company. I know that you're doing, you're investing in these areas, and your stock was at this price. And last quarter you did this much of profit, and your focus was in R&D, and now you're focusing on system on chip. So I want to be part of that system on chip team. I've seen graduates like that too. Right? So being
Okay.
able to, whenever you come for an interview, understand about the company,
All right.
right? And lead that conversation. When you come in, don't let the interviewer keep asking you questions because we don't really know
Mm,
who you are. And we
yes.
may ask the wrong question that makes you unable to answer us. The best
Yes.
is to tell us, Mr. Rafeek, I'm an E&E graduate. I've done some research on these studies, and I know that Intel is working on this, and these are all the relevant things I have. Lead that conversation. That will be a great start.
All right. Okay. So before, I think there's a comment by, I think, a former professor here. There's for the viewers, there's a link in the YouTube chat box. If you could just click on that for the attendance and even the e-certificate of this session by the Office of Industrial Link. So there's a comment here, Mr. Rafeek, by your professor, I think, Professor Muhammad Rashidin Khan. So I'm very delighted to see Brother Rafeek after a long, long time. I am the one of the few lecturers in the mechatronic engineering still with the department. Oh, yeah. Any comments, Brother Rafeek?
I still remember you, Dr. Raisuddin. Assalamualaikum.
He says here, he has covered how an engineer should think and work. Wow. Right. So a compliment by your professor here. Mr.
I owe it to him for educating me. That's the yeah.
Yes, yes. Wow. Okay. Wow. You feel yeah. Okay. There's another question here by Mr. Nizam Awang. Insightful talk, Mr. Rafeek. What would you be your advice to early career entrants on being agile and resilient in the industry?
All right. When you come into the industry, come with an open mind. An open mind and a willingness to learn, right?
Mm.
Because most of the things that are there in the industry are sometimes not in your textbooks. All right, that's number one, because the industry moves extremely fast, right? And the challenges that we see in the industry are real challenges. For example, there's a lot of parasitics in the circuits that we are building. In theory, those parasitics don't exist.
Yes, yes,
When you
exactly.
design them, you see a lot of parasitics. You see a lot of distribution in how materials behave. right?
Mm.
Even
Mm.
in a normal manufacturing process, you will see a normal distribution, a fast part, a
Mm.
slower part, and a typical part at the middle. These are all translates into transistor behaviors and performance, all right? So these are very different than what you see in academia. But so come in with an open mind and willingness to learn, right? That was a game changer for me, because when I entered Intel as a fresh graduate, I didn't know anything, right? I knew the fundamentals of what I was taught, and when Intel exposes me with all this different knowledge, I was willingly learning. And I'll be honest with you, the first 3 4 years at Intel, it was a lot of learning. A lot of
Okay.
learning before you can move towards contributing. So in the
Yes.
first phase, be prepared to learn and execute, because you got to build your reputation. So you execute, meaning you deliver what was being requested, and at the same time, keep learning and keep learning and keep learning. And then once you're ready, you move up to the next level where you start contributing,
Okay.
right? And once you start contributing, you feel more comfortable, you move up one level and start making decisions.
Okay.
Not many people are willing to make decisions because they often don't understand. But I can share you five pointers of how I measure someone. I measure
Mm.
myself on the same pointers too. Number one is how well I understand the body of knowledge. Number two is how am I able to explain this body of knowledge to someone.
Mm.
Right? You will notice that some people can talk to you. Okay, inverter circuit, this is how it functions. But you give
Mm.
him a marker pen and ask them to the whiteboard, draw me an inverter circuit, show me how the bits flows, you lose them.
Mm.
They don't dare to do it because they cannot explain to you well enough, right? So understand the body of knowledge and then being able to explain that body of knowledge. Number three is when you encounter an issue, you are able to innovate a solution.
Mm.
Competency level number four is being able to mentor someone.
Mentor someone.
Right? And competency level number five is when people plug you from one department into another department, you are still
Mm.
able to function and contribute at the same level.
Adaptable. Mm. Mm.
Adaptable, being agile, right? That is
Agile.
extremely important. So these five
Yes.
elements.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Mr. Rafeek. I think is there any more questions from the viewers, the audience in the chat box? If you would like to ask, maybe one more, or we'll see about it. Before, so while waiting for that, I think there are some comments in the chat box. Of course, I forgot to, Prof. President says Assalamualaikum. There's another one, Mazian, Fazrul, and then from Rosie here, awesome speaker, KOE alumni, from Mr. Okay, yeah, good morning. Yeah, all right. And then from a few more, yep. Okay, so I think we have extended the time, Mr. Ahmad Rafeek, and you've, I think, explained a lot of things here that is very useful, fruitful. I think we could not cover it in one hour. Your 17 years of experience. If I gave you, I think, half a day or one day, I think you'll be able to explain everything. I think not enough as well. Can 17 years, 17 years, Mr. Ahmad Rafeek. So on behalf of the organizing committee, we would like to send our deepest gratitude. Thank you to your sharing. Inshallah, hopefully that the audience here, they have benefited from whatever you have shared with us. And inshallah, hopefully our graduates will become more competent. Whatever you have explained to them, I think it comes from your heart, right? It comes from your heart. Whatever you experience, that is what you actually said to us just now. So before I end, please the viewers subscribe to our YouTube channel for more information that we will share with you in the coming months to come. That we will invite other speakers from industries to share the insights of the industry and etc. So with that, I think Mr. Marafik, thank you again. I end this session with a speak Farah dan surah wal asr. Subhanakallahumma bihamdika asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Thank you, Mr. Rafeek.
All right. Assalamualaikum.